interviews with HBO, and those interviews aired last night. They voiced issues with the quarterback's new contract, calling it disrespectful and saying that it made them sick. Shannon, what's your reaction?
Well, I can understand their unhappiness with Deshaun getting the big contract because they feel like this gentleman did something to them, and it's almost like he was rewarded. So I get it, Skip, and these are some very serious allegations that they're alleging that Deshaun Watson committed against them, and this is why we need to let the process play out. And it's really hard to tell, Skip, because anytime you go to court, Skip, you're asking 12 men, having men, your peers, to listen to evidence, and who do you believe? Who do you believe is more telling the truth? Who do you believe is more forthcoming? Who is not fudging? Who's not adding or taking anything out? Who's telling you the truth? And you're asking 12 men and women, and that's what, Skip, it's all civil. Because the grand juries in Texas says, no, we don't believe that there's enough evidence here that we can bring charges and then have 12 men and women hear these charges and get a conviction. So they says, okay, you guys do what you need to do. So I don't know how.
Two different grand juries.
Two different grand juries says we do not believe.
Not to indict.
Chose not to, and people got upset. And what I've said, Skip, if that people all of a sudden when the grand jury didn't indict him, they said, well, that doesn't mean that he's innocent. But you automatically jump to the conclusion of these allegations of his guilt. And I'm saying if you're going to say that the grand jury not indicting him doesn't mean he's innocent, why do you automatically assume that the allegations means that he's guilty? I believe Deshaun Watson deserved to have his day in court, and he's going to have that day in court, Skip. He's been adamant. Skip, he could have settled these things and been all about his merry way. He says, but I refuse to settle when I don't believe I've done anything wrong. Now, the NFL is also listening to this. I don't know if the NFL interviewed those two women, Skip, but it's been reported that they have interviewed some women. It's reported that they sat down with Deshaun Watson and interviewed Deshaun Watson.
Numerous times.
So we're going to have some sort of resolution. We're going to have some kind of conclusion. But at the end of the day, somebody's going to be very disappointed. Either Deshaun Watson is going to say, man, I was wrong. I didn't do what these women said. Or these women are going to say, he got away with something that we know what happened in that massage room or his home or wherever it took place, Skip. Somebody's going to be upset. I have no problem with these women coming forward and telling their sides of what they believe happened to them on HBO. I got no problem with that, Skip. But I don't really know if they thought Deshaun, because this is a pending litigation. Deshaun Watson's not going to sit down and have a conversation. It's like we reached out to Deshaun, but he had no comment. But his representative did have some comments on this issue, Skip. This is a very, very tough situation because it's ongoing. And dealing with the manner of what we did, because it's a different era now, Skip. It's a different time now. So you have to be sensitive, and I am, to these women. I have daughters, have a sister, have a mom. So I'm very sensitive. But I'm going to let this process play out. I'm going to let Deshaun Watson, I don't know if it goes to court or what. Maybe he decides that, you know what, I've spent too much money. Because the only people right now get wealthy is the attorneys. And then, what is transpiring, this is what I tell guys. Ain't no turning back from this. Deshaun Watson he can, all 22, they can take it to court and all jury says, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. And there are going to be people out there say he did it. He's never going to be able to be the Deshaun Watson before this came to the forefront. It's never, ever going to happen. So no matter what happens, he forever wears this letter. That's just the way it is. And I don't know Deshaun. I've never met Deshaun Watson a day in my life, Skip. But I'm just telling you, once this brush gets painted up against you, you read the book, The Scarlet Letter, Skip?
Did I? Nathaniel Hawthorne.
And she had to wear that.
Hester Prynne. Scarlet A.
He got to wear this.
Stood for adultery.
He has to wear this. Innocent or not, he has to wear this.
By the way, to your final point, to which I wholeheartedly agree, at the very least, and we've talked about this before, this was very reckless behavior by Deshaun as the franchise quarterback in the Houston Texans. 22, and it was just repetitive behavior where you're putting yourself in dangerous situation after situation after
Right.
situation. You know that
Yes.
as well as anybody would know.
Yes.
Okay. I carefully watched last night. I watched the testimony on camera, the recounting on camera from these two women, Ashley Solis and Kyla Hayes, and they both provided much graphic detail. I thought they were both compelling and very convincing in their recounting of their view of what happened.
Correct.
But once again, it's he said versus she said. So all I know is what they said. And yet it was very convincing the way they told it. And they told it very passionately, and they were both deeply offended by the fact that Deshaun Watson was given $230 guaranteed million, right. $80 more million than any previous quarterback contract, which was Aaron Rodgers, the previous Aaron Rodgers contract.
Right.
$80 million more. And Ashley said, it's just like a big screw you. And Kyla said, it felt like he's being rewarded for bad behavior. Okay. Then we swing over to Deshaun's side, and a woman named Leah Graham, who's one of his attorneys, was also interviewed at the end of the piece. And her point was, he did nothing wrong in these massages. What evidence is there of any guilt? Because her point is 2 grand juries declined to indict.
Right.
Okay? You're right.
Right.
They did. He said that she said.
Right.
And his team, and he has also acknowledged in his testimony that 3 times with 3 of the 22 women, he finished the massage and they had a sexual encounter.
Yes, they had a consensual relationship.
That consensually, that was initiated, according to Deshaun by his side, was initiated by the masseuse.
Right.
Okay? So it's also very possible that of the 22, there were many different motives going on here.
Right.
And it's also very possible that Ashley and Kyla were extremely professional and intended solely to deliver the service that they provided all their other
right.
clients. And Ashley made the case that she trusted Deshaun because she talked to her father, who was very excited about, oh, Deshaun contacted you, I think it was via social somehow. And the father told Ashley Solis, oh, he's a great guy. He gives back to the community. And she went in trusting that he was a great guy.
Right.
And then that happened. Okay. According to her. And she wound up with tears in her eyes. Deshaun has testified she did have tears in her eyes. And he actually texted back to her, I hope you're okay. And she felt threatened in the end because he talked about how you have a career you want to protect and I have a career I want to protect. So she felt actually that it was sort of an implied threat.
Right.
And she has been the most outspoken because she had spoken out publicly at a press conference that they held with the lawyer Busby in Houston. Okay, so this is as tricky a decision as maybe the NFL has ever been faced with in this area.
Right.
Because I remind you of what happened to my man Ezekiel Elliott,
Right.
2017.
That was one female.
Okay, and it was 2 police departments
Right.
investigated and chose not to charge Zeke, one female accuser. And remember, Kia Roberts in the NFL office interviewed the accuser and found her testimony not to be credible.
Correct.
Then she was preempted by those above her.
Lisa Friel.
Yes, and Kia wound up out of a job.
Yeah, she no longer works for the NFL.
Okay, so all that happened, and in the end, Zeke took it to court, and in the end of that season, down the stretch of that season, you know what happened? The NFL dropped the hammer and said 6 games. Okay, so again, if we're talking about just conduct unbecoming in the end, a violation of the conduct code, even though Deshaun has already paid with a whole year, paid with a whole year to start with, my gut is telling me that he will get 8 more games. Just because it's all about image.
Right.
It's all, even Rusty Hardin, Deshaun's attorney, has said that in the end, because of the court of public opinion, I believe that they'll still go ahead and suspend him.
But Skip, we know the NFL is very reactive. But the question is, we saw what happened with MLB in the Trevor Bauer situation.
We did.
He was on an administrative leave. He got paid. He missed a year. The commissioner comes in and said, Rob Manfred says, nah, we're going to give you another one.
They did.
So are they? And now everybody, now Skip, you read the article that all these women are saying if the NFL does not do what MLB did to Trevor Bauer, they don't have their policy doesn't have teeth. So are the NFL going to be reactive in that sense and says, you know what, they're going to look at us funny if we don't give him an entire year? That's what Skip. That's what I'm afraid of. Now the NFL, look, it shouldn't take public opinion. You form your own opinion. You sit down, you talk to these women. You have people in there that this is what they do. And you sit down and you talk to Deshaun Watson. And just with anything, Skip, you got to say, who's telling the truth? Somebody's lying here.
Somebody's lying.
And that's Skip, it's really as simple as that. I don't think the NFL is Skip this is not normal. And this is why you hire Lisa Freeland. This is why you hire women from the SVU that deal with these situations and the sex crimes, so they have a better understanding. They got 10, 15, 20 years of dealing with stuff like this. Because this is not what the NFL's entertainment business, Skip. This is not what they signed up for. And that's why they didn't have anything in the bylaws on how to deal with this. They had to, as it goes. But Skip, there are going to be absolutely no winners in this situation. These women will be forever looked upon like, oh, you tried to bring Deshaun down. Deshaun's going to be looked upon as like, bruh, you had all this access and you could have had any woman you want and you put yourself in this situation.
Yep.
So everybody's life is forever changed.